the Lloyd case, and the death penalty debate. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to also give you another naughty Santa Claus story and a whole lot more on today's Charlie Crimebuster. This is called the fastest minutes in podcasting. Well, hello and welcome again to another Charlie Crime Talk. This is a revised edition, actually, of this particular podcast. We had some recording technical difficulties on our last recording, so we're re-recording this. And for you that got the old recording, we apologize for those technical difficulties. Hope this one will be a little clearer for you. Hey, we've been talking about the death penalty. What do you think? Do you think it still should be instituted today? And if you do, why? Well, the answers may surprise you. And as you have requested, we're going to also share with you another naughty Santa Claus story during this time of the year. By the way, as we said last time when we recorded the earlier version of this particular podcast, it is a great Christmas present for us, for our new listeners that we have each and every day. For you that join us from the East Coast to the West Coast, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. We really do. And we hope that you've already subscribed to the podcast. And if you'd like to listen to more Charlie shows, well, go to charliecrimebuster.com. That's charliecrimebuster.com. Hit that menu. That's the little marking button there, and they're going to show you all of our particular episodes, so you can go back and look at them. We've got a lot of great episodes there. We did, I think, some of the greatest work in the country on the Gabby Petito case. If you remember, I did predict exactly what happened to Brian Laundrie and where he would be. I even went against the predictions of people like Dog the Bounty Hunter and John Walsh. Those are great crime fighters, but they had that one wrong and I had it right. Take a listen to that, the Gabby Petito cases. There's several podcasts with that. And also we went into the Rittenhouse and the Ahmaud Arbery cases. I predicted those right on the money too. So be sure and take a look at that. And the recent school shooting, we talked about that and a whole lot more. That is, go to charliecrimebuster.com. That's charliecrimebuster.com. Now remember, this is the season to be giving, and if you're looking for somewhere to give, where to make a difference, we're going to have a link at the bottom of this show where you can make a difference. Stacy Wright, wonderful, wonderful young lady. She's battling cancer now. She's a fellow crime fighter, and now she's fighting against cancer. You can help her out. Just go to the link there. You take it right to her GoFundMe page. My friend, let me tell you, anything that you can give would be a help. So this is the season to be giving. Why don't you join us in helping her out? Now, our focus today is on the death penalty, and it's recently been decided in the Lloyd case. This was a cop killer case right here in Orlando, Florida. This is recorded in Central Florida, so this is close to home. And we're going to get to that in a moment. Right now, it's time for a naughty Santa Claus story. Well, this particular Santa, he broke the law way up there in that windy city called Chicago. And apparently, he thought his Christmas journey might be delayed, so he got really upset and mad about it. But it wasn't delayed by the wind of the windy city of Chicago. It was delayed by the cops. Well, this is another Santa who, unfortunately, he had too much spiked eggnog. That's what it appears. Well, here's the story. You see, this drunk Santa, he was arrested for disorderly conduct against a police officer when he got angry at that cop and kicked him right in the shins. Ouch. Adam Kimlick, well, he entered a shop in Lakeview, Chicago. Then he began swearing at the customers there. He did appear to be intoxicated, so the staff members, they decided to show Santa to the door, and so they escorted him out the store. And then, but once the police caught up to him, well, he just decided that he was going to get on his reindeer and get out of there. He became violent. He began taking swings at the officers. They finally managed to detain him, but he was charged for his actions. So, my friend, I guess if your Christmas tradition, if it does include leaving some of that eggnog out for Santa, oh, please, please, make sure it isn't spiked. What we don't need is another drunk, naughty Santa Claus. Well, our major focus today is the death penalty, and just this week it was again introduced, but this time by a jury. You see, on Wednesday a week ago, a jury recommended the convicted killer Marketh Lloyd, well, they said, give him the death penalty. Here's what they said. We, the jury, find aggravating factors that they are sufficient to warrant a possible sentence of death, and so they answered yes. Now, he's yet to be sentenced by the judge. The judge could overturn that, but the jury said, all of them, it's unanimous. It has to be unanimous here in Florida. If you're going to give the death penalty, every single jury member must say yes, and they said yes, and no wonder they did. You see, Lloyd, he was on the run for the murder of Say Dixon. That was his girlfriend. He was on the run for that murder. He shot her, killed her, shot her brother, killed his unborn baby, but then he also killed Lieutenant Deborah Clayton of the Orlando Police Department. That was back in January 2017. Now, shortly after that sentence recommendation, well, Deborah Clayton's family, they did speak out. Seth Clayton, she was the spokesperson for the family. She said, I'm glad this is over. It's been a long time coming. Been 5 years almost. I'm just happy it's over. And Chief John Minna, he was the chief of police when Clayton was killed. He's now the sheriff, by the way, but he was chief of police then. He had a message for Lloyd. Here's what he said. He said, I'm glad we will never hear your pathetic attempts to excuse your criminal and violent behavior. Chief went on to say, I'm grateful he's going to spend 24 hours a day thinking about what he's done and what he's going to face, I would add to that. Now, the new Orlando chief, Roland, he released a statement. He said, in the years since her death, Lieutenant Clayton's loved ones and the entire OPD family, we've waited for the day. We waited for the day when the defendant would be held accountable for his heinous crimes. Well, he will now face the highest penalty provided by law. That's what current chief said. He also took time to thank the jury for the service. Well, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, they also said that Clayton's sacrifice will never be forgotten. You see, my friend, this man killed his girlfriend and his own unborn child. That was before he met up with the female Orlando cop in the parking lot of a Walmart, where, now get this, he not only shot her, but he stood above her, and he included and continued to shoot her, this time in execution style, right over top of her, kept putting bullets into her life. And there was even another brave officer. He was on the way to try to stop this murderer, and unfortunately he had a motorcycle accident trying to rush to her aid, and he died as well. So here is a man who's responsible for the death of his girlfriend, wounded the girlfriend's brother, killed his unborn child in the process, shot an Orlando police officer, and then walked up to her and executed her. And as a result of his terrible acts that day, another officer lost his life on the way to help. Now, most of us would agree if there's one case that's deserving the death penalty, it would be this monster. But, my friend, not everybody does agree about using the death penalty. So we're going to discuss it. We're going to discuss it right now on today's program, the pros and cons of the death penalty. I'm even going to give you my own thoughts to the death penalty during our Charlie Chat phase of the episode. But now it's time for a courageous citizen story of the week. I'll tell you something that's really been concerning for all of us. That was the recent Michigan school shooting. And we did share that with you last week, including some of the phases to look for in order to stop a mass shooter. You need to know about those. Again, go to charliecrimebuster.com for the entire episode. But I did encourage you in that last episode, our Charlie Chat, we said, if you see something, say something. Boy, little did I know that people would follow that mantra. You see, that mantra literally stopped a mass shooting right here in our very own city and area. You see, there was an Emory-Riddle University student just last week. John Hagens is his name. Well, right now he's in jail. He's in jail and for no bond, and he's facing 3 felony charges. You see, the 19-year-old, he's charged of writing threats to injure and kill, also charged with terrorism and attempted first-degree homicide. You see, police say that he did confess to making threats to shoot up the campus. That's at Emory-Riddle on Daytona Beach. He did that past Thursday, which was the last day of classes before the winter break. He said, now this is a quote from the Daytona Beach chief, Mr. Young, He said that once done at the firing range, he was going to campus and enact a Columbine. Remember that terrible school shooting? Well, the campus was packed with students. However, they never really put it on lockdown because school officials said police were notified and they caught him beforehand. Investigators, they do say that Higgins, well, he was carrying an arsenal inside a backpack. That's when police detained him coming out of his apartments. They also found a collapsible rifle with plenty of ammo, including 6 magazines and one that would hold up to 32 9mm bullets. Plus, he meant business. He even had a scope on his rifle. He was going to leave his apartment. He was headed over to Volusia Top Gun. That's a shooting range we have here in our area. He was going to get practice there, and then he was going to head right straight to Embry-Riddle University. That's what Chief Young said. And the chief also went on to say, thankfully, 2 fellow students came forward. They alerted the university after hearing the alleged plan on social media. Chief went on to say, by the grace of God, they came forward, and they prevented the Embry-Riddle from being the next national media story with regards to a mass shooting. That's what our Chief Young said here in Daytona Beach. Went on to say, who knows how many people were saved. Now, John Higgins, he was from the Miami area, and I guess he was failing classes. He was on academic probation. Authorities still not sure what his motive might have been. That, who knows. And last week, again, I pointed out, on our past episode, we talked about the stages of a mass shooter. We can see that again today. These phases, of course, in this time, brought a stop to the mass shooting because people interfered in those phases, in those stages. Unlike the Michigan one, where the stages were ignored. I mentioned there are several stages. First is the planning stage. You see, he was planning his shooting, and while he was planning his shooting, he thought out loud. 2 students picked up on it. They acted upon it. And we are also proud of our men and women of blue because not only did these students come forward and say something about what they had heard and knew about, also the Daytona Police Department acted immediately, surrounded his apartment, and captured him before he had time to do the mass shooting. He was on the way to that second phase. The second phase, that's the practice stage. See, you have the planning stage, then you have the practice stage. And fortunately, they got to him before he even went out to practice on his way to shoot up this school. So we want to take the time right now to recognize our courageous citizen of the week. And we have 2 of them. Both of these students who heard about this man, who knew that he was planning something, and they didn't just think he was joking about it, but they took action. And because of these 2 courageous citizens who came forth, who saw something, and yes, they said something, my friend, they are indeed Charlie Crimebusters, heroes and courageous citizens of the week. Now, our main focus today, of course, is going to be the death penalty. And let's start by just a little background about the death penalty. Now, the United States, well, it's one of 55 countries who still have the death penalty. And of March of 24 of 2021, 27 states currently now do have the death penalty. However, there are 3 of those who currently have a moratorium on using it. The top 5 states and the number of executions, and we're getting this information from 1976. Well, Texas leads it with 573, Oklahoma with 113, Virginia 113 again, and then Florida with 99, followed up by Missouri with 91. That's the top 5. And how about the methods? How people are put to death? 1,359. They were put to death by lethal injection. 163 by electrocution, 11 by the gas chamber, and 3 were hanged, and 3 by the firing squad. And as of October the 1st, 2020, 51 women are now on death row. By the way, that's only 2% of the total death row population, so per people, as far as how many people are on death row, that's not very much, 2%. And only 17 women have been executed since 1976. How about race, by race? This might surprise you. Most people would try to say and tell you that there are more black people executed than white people, but not really. According to these statistics from 1976, 855 of those executed were white people, while 524 were black people. Now, there's also a federal death penalty in federal cases, but that death penalty has only been used 16 times since it was reinstated in 1988. It was used 2 times in 2001, once in 2003, 10 times in 2020, last year, and 3 times in 2021. And with the Biden administration, well, now there's a moratorium on federal executions. And most of those were carried out under the Trump administration, as you can see, 10 during his administration. Now let's talk a little bit about the pros of the death penalty. A lot of people for the death penalty because they say, number one, it deters crime. People say that people will think twice if they think they might get the death penalty. However, I've got to tell you, there are some people who say that does not compute. You see, most death penalties, well, they're really instituted in the South. And yet the South still has the highest murder rate per capita. A second popular con is that it's quick, painless, and human. See, some people think it's more humane than putting someone in a cage for the rest of their life. A third reason why people support the death penalty, and probably the most important one that most people think about, is they feel it appeases the victims and the victim's family. They say it might help give closure to the families who've seen their loved ones violently killed by the actions of others. Another reason is that, well, some of those violent criminals, if they're not put to death, they're going to continue to kill. Even while they're locked up, after all, they really don't have anything to lose if they're serving a life sentence, and they have no fear of death. Others will tell you that we ought to put people to death with the death penalty because it's less expensive than having someone stay in prison the rest of their life. That's really not true. In fact, statistics tell us that the median cost of keeping somebody alive until execution, $1.26 million. The cost of keeping one incarcerated until the end of their incarceration, well, that's only $740,000. So it's actually cheaper to put somebody in jail for the rest of their life, in prison for the rest of their life, than it is to take their life. That's because of all the appeal situations and how long you have to wait to get somebody to the death of the death penalty. Well, we're going to talk about our cons in the death penalty in just a moment, but right now it is time for our Crazy Crook story. Now, especially as we talk about death, it's good to take a break, give us a pause to smile at some of the crazy crooks. Boy, this is a crazy lady that got involved in this one. And thank God it's not from Florida. You know, you've heard the term Florida man. We got plenty of crazy crooks down here, I promise you. But this one's all the way up north in Maine. You see, it seems like this lady, she would like to spend more time with her boyfriend. So she came up, now get this, with an incredible stupid plan to get him off work. Kayla Blake, she's 33 years of age. She called in 2 bomb threats to her boyfriend's workplace. That's what the Portland Press-Herald reported. She really wanted to spend more time with her man. Well, the officials say that the threats went to a Puritan medical products plant. That's in Pittsville. They actually produced swabs for COVID tests. And her calling in those bomb threats, well, it resulted in the evacuation of about 400 employees. That's from both of the company's plants in town. They lost a whole day of production. And she's been charged with felony count of terrorizing. Now, Blake, which was an Etna resident, she called police around 9 a.m. on a Thursday morning. She said there was a bomb at the plant. She then called again 2 hours later. Guess she didn't get the results, and she said she's going to plant 4 pipe bombs near the plant. That's what Fox reported. And so they, of course, traced the call. Deputies found Blake after speaking to area residents. And then she admitted she made the calls, said there were no bombs. She was arrested and put in jail, and her bail was set at $1,500. Well, somebody said that she had just gotten back from a flight down and vacationing here in Florida. If that be the case, well, the lady probably had too much sun. That sun must have baked her brain while she was here in the Sunshine State. Because, my friend, if you want to spend time with your boyfriend, calling in a bomb threat is not the best way to do it, because then the only time you're really going to be spending is with the jailmates in the pokey. And that, my friend, is our crazy crook story of the week. Well, now, we shared with you some of the most popular reasons for the death penalty. How about some of the cons now, those who do not support the death penalty? One of the most popular reasons is that they say that sometimes innocent people get the death penalty, may be put to death. And with DNA leading the way that wrongfully convicted people have been found, well, they have now found innocent people who have been convicted of crimes. Statistics will tell us that one of 9 people executed has, I misspoke, one of 9 people who are on death row has been exonerated. And since 1973, 186 of those have been exonerated. 1 out of 9. Now, another reason why some people do not support the death penalty is because they think there's a racial bent. And according to the National Registry of Exonerations, there is evidence of racial bias. That's in wrongful convictions. The report did find that black people are 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of murder than white people. Another reason people oppose the death penalty is because it's considered by some to be cruel and unusual punishment. In simple terms, they say we are not to kill. It's morally wrong to kill somebody. So those are some of the cons of it. Now, I told you that before the episode is over, I'm going to tell you what I think about it. Now, before we do that, I do want to tell you I'm really excited because in the coming weeks, we're going to be launching a special website. It's called the Peacemaker Network. It's going to enable you to stand with the heroes who are indeed the peacemakers of our country. We're really excited about sharing that with you. We're going to also give you an opportunity to be a part of the organization. In fact, if you'd like to volunteer to be a part of the launch team, hey, give me an email. Email me, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com, charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And you can also let us know if you have comments or suggestions on some of our Charlie shows. Again, that's charliecrimebuster@gmail.com. I also want to remind you again, you can be a part of helping another crime fighter who's fighting cancer, Stacy Wright. Go to her GoFundMe page. We'll have a link at the bottom of the show notes. Now it's time for our Charlie Chat. Here's what I think about it. While I respect people's opinion in the death penalty, folks, I got to tell you, I am in support of the death penalty. You see, I think a good example is the Lloyd case. He had already killed people before the killing of the female police officer here in Orlando. He was responsible for another police officer being killed on his motorcycle. He killed his girlfriend who was pregnant with his baby. He shot in cold blood her brother. You see, I do not think that the death penalty ought to be here because it would deter crime, because it will not deter crime. There'll still be crime, but it will get a murderer off the street and it'll keep them from killing others. I know it's not cost effective. It does cost more to get someone to execution rather than to house them for life in prison. But that fact, my friend, to me is sad, because it should not take that much time to get someone to the end. We can still protect rights, and we can get them to execution faster, especially today with science. And by the way, the argument that innocent people will be put to death, well, it's not happening today, because thanks to science, we're finding the innocent people, and we're making the right choice to free them from death row. And it's much more unlikely to send somebody there wrongfully now, because science can be on their side. And I do believe it will help with closure. You see, while nothing can bring back the lives of the loved ones that have lost their loved ones to some violent act, it will bring some closure. And how about the moral part of it? Well, the greatest book of all, it's called the Bible, and it tells us that justice has an eye for an eye approach. Leviticus 24:19 through 21 says, "And if a man who injures his countryman as he has done, so shall it be done to him, fracture to fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Just as another person has received injury from him, so it will be given to him." There is indeed biblical justification for the death penalty. And while it may cost more and it may not stop crime, my friend, I believe it's only right for people like Marketh Lloyd, who in cold blood shot and killed the mother of his unborn child, shot her brother, and then executed Lieutenant Deborah Clayton on January the 9th, 2017, who was trying to arrest him outside of a Walmart store. He who executed, he deserves to be executed. And that's my opinion in today's Charlie Chat. So beware, my friend. There are evil people out there. They want to injure you. They want to kill you. So if ever you needed to do so today, you need to be alert. Be safe. The life you save, it may be your very own. Till next time.